Well, there's been a lot of sneering and mockery of Candace Owens bouncing around the internet lately, including from me, to be honest. And again, to be honest, most of it's deserved. I do, though, think it's extremely worth understanding what's happening beneath the surface, if you will pardon my undercurrents pun. That is, of course, our motto here. Now, Tucker Carlson is currently taking tons of heat for interviewing Daryl Cooper on his show this week, with a lot of that discussion centered on the Cold War, the immediate aftermath of World War II. And I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but I'll say one thing it shows is that we're in the midst of a long overdue reckoning. We were lied to about the Cold War. We are being lied to about the Cold War still today. And basically from the end of World War II to now, we have been lied to about the Cold War. We are literally learning significant details about American malfeasance during this conflict on an annual basis. Because the Cold War occurred in the 20th century, that means we have infinite volumes of written evidence along with audio and video to sift through. And then we have to put all of those pieces together as new documents are declassified or discovered. Plus, so much of the history, think about the Kennedy assassination, remains classified and undiscovered. But Owens is one of many people who are reacting to this hidden history by reflexively categorizing the West and the US government as bad overall, because in some of these individual cases, well, it really was. New details did not stop emerging after the Church Committee era, and some modern corruption has precedent in that era as well. Tom O'Neill's book Chaos, which Owens has cited, really did deepen our understanding of MK Ultra and the FBI and the CIA and the Beach Boys for some reason. That book came out very recently. There's also Devil's Chessboard, among many, many other reports and tomes released just in the last decade. We probably wouldn't name an airport Dulles today or the FBI building after J. Edgar Hoover. That's how significant the vibe shift has been, thanks in part to the right, and this includes me, conceding in some cases that people like Noam Chomsky kind of made some good points about US foreign policy. With the benefit of hindsight and declassification, it's sort of easier to make those judgments. I wasn't alive in the 1980s, but I bet I'd have been more willing to believe arming, say, the Contras was necessary if I was born in a world without nuclear weapons, then suddenly thrust into a new chapter of human existence where Soviet influence in our hemisphere posed this new, strange existential threat that we weren't used to as a species. And the same goes for the Soviets who were dealing with our nukes, by the way. Journalists like Stan Evans actually dug into newly declassified files like the Venona papers that were released in 1995. Think about that, 1995, and found pretty incredible evidence that Soviet agents genuinely did infiltrate the US government when we were teetered at the brink of nuclear catastrophe. You don't have to get into the full history of McCarthyism to understand that. We're still teetering now at the brink of nuclear catastrophe, though we prefer not to think about it. We need to be clear-eyed and honest about our history. It's almost like someone who's not guilty lying about their alibi. You still don't trust them. So when new generations of Americans, like me, like Candace Owens, frankly, start hearing completely true facts about insane measures the CIA and the FBI took to stave off nuclear conflict, it's really easy to reflexively side with the people giving you that information, who tend to be categorically anti-American and anti-Western, which, by the way, is fine for them, but often involves its own revisionist history that whitewashes Soviet evils and downplays Western accomplishments. We see this starting to come from Candace Owens, for example, and treating people like they're stupid for being upset about, in many cases, true information from great journalists like O'Neill is wildly unproductive. We generally act as though the Cold War somehow proved the human species won't be destroyed by nuclear weapons because we've lasted, less than a century? Less than a lifetime? A blink of an eye in the scope of our history? It's really dangerous to lie about how we handled these threats in their earliest years of existence because we're still in the earliest years of their existence. As with all, quote, disinformation policing, it drives many people towards worse information. And it's also just untrue. Being honest about how the US reacted after World War II isn't the same as siding with the Soviets, turning into Angela Davis, or agreeing we're the bad guys. But being dishonest will push more and more people into those positions.